Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shelcross, licensed agent with Second City Real Estate. With me as always, Mark Ainley, founder and owner of GC Realty. Mark, how's it going, man?
Not bad, man. You're a couple minutes late, but I can understand you had a rental. Maybe your GPS is a little off there.
Yeah, I guess I could tell the story on air, I guess. So this is about a week ago from recording, so I don't know when this will air, but I was at one of my 3 units. That was just a new tenant moved in, so I was changing out the labeler for the mailbox, I believe. And I'm out there and just picking weeds or whatever, just taking the 2 minutes to look at the place. I hear a car crash, like right off of Laramie. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Whoever that was. And then I talked to one of the other tenants there for like 3 minutes, just casual. And then I walked back out, and it was my car that was parked that got nailed there. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
This sucks for me.
But the guy stuck around. That's the amazing part of the story.
Stuck around. Yeah, good. There's good people out there.
And I imagine he stuck around. He had insurance, so you're not totally screwed. I mean, you always hear the stories about people like, and the guy didn't have insurance.
Yeah, I mean, he spoke no English. Good dude, right? He stuck around, like he's working through all this. Way to do the Google Translate out there to get this all figured out. But I think at the end of the day, we got it figured out. So.
Oh, wait, so you're usually using Google Translate while on the side of the road trying to get this all figured out? That's crazy.
Yeah, I could sometimes communicate, with contractors and whatnot. This was no English whatsoever.
Well, I'll tell you this, that when 20 years ago, when my first few Hispanic tenants before Google was what it was in the Translate, like I literally had a couple people in my phone that said translator. Like there were a couple go-to people that were like, hey man, I need you to jump on the call. And they always jumped on the call with me, and I sent them gift cards a couple times a year, but I literally, because we didn't have any on staff and we're using remote people at that point, then that Google wasn't around. Like I literally had people to call up and jump on three-way with me to help me get through those conversations.
There you go. I know now it's replaced by computers like the rest of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, navigating in the rental a little tougher for me.
When you get the car back, how long?
We'll see. I mean, hopefully by the time this airs, we'll see.
All right.
So what on a more serious note, what do we got for the housing provider tip of the week? And besides, don't park on a major street.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything funny to say about that one. But as far as a housing provider tip of the week, this is one of the first years we tried to get out ahead of it. In Chicago, you have to leave in now Cook County, you have to make sure you have sufficient heat all the way through June 1st. And it's this April, May, this winter, we had a very mild winter. So you have these days are spiking up to 60, 70, and we've had an 80 degree days this past week. So, you have people calling in saying, hey, please turn off the boiler. And we actually got out ahead of it since then, and with the rest of the people, and the weather kind of going up and down, and literally said notice out, like, hey, we want to do it, but we have to leave it on. And here's a couple different things that you can do to alleviate the heat in your particular unit, open the windows, so forth. So, but to stop the flood of calls coming in from the hundreds of boiler tenants that we have, we're just trying to be more proactive this year. And it just kind of lays out expectations. And we definitely, it dipped down here to 30 degrees. So all those people that would have complained last week about us turning it off, if we would have done anything with it, they would have been called up saying they had no heat today. So I'd rather it be too hot than too cold. But in our situation, I know there's some bad things that happened last year. But yep. So housing provider tip, just make sure if you can be proactive in those conversations in your boiler buildings, or even be more proactive, where we did this on a couple of buildings, we actually turned down the heat a couple degrees. So even hot wasn't unbearable hot for the unit if they didn't want to open the windows or whatnot.
All right, good deal.
So today, man, we have a guest on here that I'm happy to have him on here. So I'm super excited. But one thing I can't believe, this is our first community bank we've had on the show. So that's a huge first. You get the honor to make sure you represent community banks across Chicago here today. But
I got more 7th grade basketball trophies to hand out if we need.
Yeah.
More awards.
So our guest today is Assistant Vice President of Commercial Lending for Bank Financial. He's a 25-year veteran mortgage banker and finance specialist. Yeah, he's closed over $400 million in real estate finance transactions. He's a commercial real estate specialist. We'll talk about some owner-occupied and multifamily today. In addition, he's been on the bank REO committees and REO disposition teams. He has skills including deal analysis, underwriting, deal structuring, and securing financing. I'm curious to hear from him today how to build relations with banks as well, too. So without further ado, I want to introduce Kevin Greer.
Hey, Mark, Tom, thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your guys' podcast. You guys are like legends here in Chicago. So
Low
it's an
bar.
honor.
It's a low bar, but so episode 8 was Ibn, and you guys actually went to his wedding. You guys got to know each other even more. So, any fun stories that came out of that wedding that from that night?
Well, actually, I was surprised to hear that Tom had so many kids, more than me.
I've always been a one-upper.
Yeah, I have
That was-
four.
That was fun, man. That was a good time. It's that was my first Indian wedding. The ash wore a sari and everything. Like it was. We only went to the one of the 3 days because it was like family. We were on the the non. I don't know where you felt, Kevin, but we're in the last group of just here's friends. We're gonna go get drunk.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you though, the food was delicious.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Ibn, you put on one hell of a wedding. That was awesome.
And then if anyone wants to hear our awkwardness in the first 10 episodes, go check out Ibn's episode in episode 8. So we were joking about before the show, when we were trying to figure out if we're going to have guests on, did we have to pay guests to come on the show? And that was one of our early on conversations back in 2020. So it's fun to share and reflect back. But yeah, Kevin, I gave you an intro. You've been doing this a long time. I think guys like you that come on the show are guys like you that are mentors to younger real estate investors that have seen multiple real estate cycles. You bring so much value. So I'm looking forward to diving into today. I gave an intro. Anything I left out? Anything you want to point out here before we get going?
No, I mean, I've been around for a long time. I've done all types of transactions from, the regular buy a single family home to a fix and flip to small multifamily and now larger commercial property. So, it's been incredible because I've seen all the different cycles that the mortgage lending industry has gone through, and it just amazes me now. This is so unique what we're going through now, even previous cycles.
Yeah, for sure. So you're the first banker, obviously you're the first community bank we've had on the show. So excited to have that, but you're the first banker or anyone in finance since the banking issues we've had in the industry recently. Now, those were banks that are out west. And how has that affected the community banks or anything you guys have done? What kind of ripple effect has that had in your day to day?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. And so, I don't know if you guys noticed, with your banks, a lot of banks are coming out with these notices that your money is safe and, you're still FDIC insured and so forth. So just like those banks, we came out with the same type of notice and told our customer base that their funds are secure. So the biggest change I've seen is that unlike last year where, we were doing, larger deals, $5-10 million deals, I think right now, because of that financial situation of the bank out west, we just kind of are being more cautious for larger deals. Taking a second look, a third look, and making sure that it's solid. And so, but the lending parameters haven't really changed. It's just that we're looking at larger deals a little bit more with more scrutiny.
Yeah, just a quick comment. You mentioned the ripple effect here. I actually I have the flipping business runs through Signature Bank in Rosemont here. So another local bank, no ties to that Signature over there. But you talk about the notices, your money is safe. Just hilarious, the amount of information I got there, right? They even used their logo in one of the national clips. So I was like, great, my bank went under. So yeah, just bombarded with the PR of no, we're safe. It's same name, different place.
Yeah.
Well, talk to us. I used the word community bank a couple of times in the show already. What is community bank described based on how many branches, how many assets they have? Give us a breakdown of really what classifies a community bank and kind of where it goes from there. What makes you?
Yeah, how do you become regional or whatever the next?
Yeah, regional. What's the difference here? Because I think that's very valuable. A lot of people use these things very loosely.
Yeah, exactly. The biggest difference as defined by the FDIC is a bank that has 10 billion and up assets under management is considered more of a regional bank, right? Regional and national bank. And so Bank Financial has assets in in the ballpark of 1.5 billion. So we're considered more like a community-based bank. Although we're kind of unique because we are publicly traded, and we do have some other branches in different states. So that's primarily the difference is the assets under management.
Why the publicly traded, or why is that? Why did your bank go that route versus, or why do other banks not go that route? I guess just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Only thing I can think of is the family that owns Bank Financial. Typically, when a company or bank goes public, they're usually using that to raise capital, right? So the only thing I can guess is that they went public so they can have raise more capital and to lend more.
Gotcha.
Got it. So with someone who hasn't interacted with a community bank, talk to us about how is this experience different than, hey, I need a loan, I'm going to Chase or Bank of America, Wells Fargo, et cetera. Like, what are, if you could be objective here, what are some of the pros and some of the cons?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. I mean, in my opinion, I think that working with the smaller community bank is more relationship driven, meaning that, do they know you, say, were you referred to the bank? Are you like known in the community? It's more of a relationship type. And I give an example, like I used to work for Seaway Bank. They don't exist anymore, but they were a small community bank on the south side. And I worked in the Brownsville location. And so we'd have loan committee meetings. And the first thing that we opened in our presentation was, hey, I know this person from, this referral through the bank. And, so it was, and so people in the community say, oh yeah, I know so-and-so. It's more relationship, right? Versus say a larger bank like Chase or, even Wintrust, it's more of, okay, they're analyzing the deal, right? And they're looking at, okay, what assets can you bring to the bank? What can you do for me, right? So I think it's the difference is the relationship.
Got it. Just go ahead, Mark. Sorry, I didn't want to.
No, keep going.
I was just going to ask, like, so, let's say you start getting a relationship, you do 2-3 deals with a community bank. Do terms start to change? Like, do you get higher leverage? Do you get, whatever it may be, interest only for 2-3 years? Like, are there some of those incentives that come along after you establish yourself?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. I think that obviously they can't like totally change the terms just, because of the relationship. But I think your deal gets moved along a little bit faster because you had that relationship. I give an example. There's a customer that I closed a deal with. I think I did like 2 or 3 deals with him last year, but he's already had been a bank financial customer for at least 5 to 7 years. So he calls me up and says, Kevin, I have a contract on the property on the north side, and I want to pull some equity out of one of my other properties that I have with you so that I can use it as the equity, the down payment for this property I'm on the contract for. And so it was interesting because he was buying a 4-unit, but the equity was in the multifamily that was on our books. I was able to close that deal, pull out that equity like within a 3-week span. I just had to order an appraisal, pull up his old presentation, put it together, and submit it to the committee. So I think the relationship helps in terms of future deals and how your deal progresses through the loan committee and so forth.
You get, people ask me all the time, or you hear on Bigger Pockets or whatnot, you hear a lot of like, go build a relationship with a community bank, or you need to start a relationship with a community bank. A lot of people do that way too late. Or it's like, all right, I got this place under contract. This is meet my guy, Kevin. Like it's late there to build that relationship, right? Now you're just doing transactional and hoping for a relationship. What does building a relationship with a community bank or someone like you look like? Yeah, are you willing, is someone like you or your equal in a community bank willing to start talking early on when they're still maybe not found a property, or maybe they're a couple of years off? Talk to us like how people get out ahead to build that relationship.
Yeah, great question, I guess. And then what are you looking for, right? Like, what are some of the things that they should be hitting on to, even if they haven't done a deal yet?
Got it. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, basically, I what I like to look for is that this person or group has done their homework, right? Because even though they might be new, some people just see your deal and say, "Hey, Kevin, can you, look at this deal, tell me what you can do." But I always like to talk to them and say, "Hey, what are you trying to accomplish? Tell me more about the property. Have you been in it? Does it need rehab? Is it turnkey?" So I think it helps to establish that relationship. Um, as soon as you're thinking about it, transition to multifamily and start analyzing deals, asking questions, and because it looks better that okay, you've done some sort of research and you have some sort of familiarity with the property or the area or the community. And I think that helps because then I can convey that in my loan presentation to my committee. Versus if you just haven't done anything, you just kind of jumping in this blind and, you know, it makes a difference.
So be able to demonstrate that you've been researching, you're asking the right questions, and you're able to articulate that with someone like yourself that they're trying to build a relationship with. It goes a long way of trying to.
Exactly.
Okay. What about the banking piece of it? Like, is it beneficial if I referred someone to you and you talk to them and this guy's got a good chance of building a long-term development career? Like, is it beneficial to go open up their bank account, pull some CDs, or start running their payroll, their W-2? Like, talk about the banking piece of it, because I know deposits are pretty valuable at community bank, correct?
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's how we're able to lend what we can is based on deposit. So, in fact, in most cases, before you close with us, we request or ask that you open a banking business checking account with us. Now, obviously, we can't force you to do it, but it would be, beneficial if you did. And, not only just because of deposits, but let's say you have a situation where, for whatever reason, your mortgage payment, and I'm dealing with this now with a couple of customers, because, the taxes went up, right? Taxes went up in December, January, right? So guess what? People's mortgage payments went up because of the escrow had to increase. And so a couple of people's payments didn't go through. They were returned NSF because they didn't put that additional money in their account to cover the increase. So what I did was the customers that have the account, their operating account with Bank Financial, it's easier for me to go to my back office and say, hey, can you take the money from this account, put it to this account, and then redraft it. Versus if someone had their operating account at, say, a Chase or someone outside of the Bank Financial, the problem is that they would have to come into the Bank Financial, and make that payment, which is more inconvenient. So that relationship is key to, for different little nuances.
Early on, so coming out of recession, we had CIC, and then we had to do the community banks, and so we built some pretty good relationships there. And one thing I did was park some of our escrow accounts there. So it wasn't per se my money, but I was able to all about for it, of course. If I was able to utilize my other business to leverage my relationship with the bank, and I also I'll take it one step further because people are like, "Hey, I don't have a property management company to do that," but I also know another. I say kid, but I mean he's 32, but. Another kid that he didn't have $100,000 sitting around, but he wanted to build a relationship with a local bank. So he had his parents check in that they had a couple $100,000 that was, they put a CD in. So he was able to build that relationship with that banker by just basically getting his family involved. And it really didn't, actually they got a little higher of an interest rate. So it's kind of a win across the board. So just throwing out some ideas out there that we're trying to build a relationship with a guy like Kevin and his bank that doesn't have to be your liquidity that you're actually building that relationship with.
Yeah. That's true. I closed the deal last year with a family that already had a bank relationship with the bank, but the sons were now taking over the property management, and they were buying a $10 million property up in Rogers Park. Now, had that family not had that relationship, I mean, they had, a lot of deposits with them. It might have been a little bit tougher for that deal to get done. So, I think those relationships are critical because when I do our write-up, they ask about the relationship that, that the person has with the bank. Do they have a savings? Do they have a check? Or do they have a current mortgage with us? And so that, when the committee sees that, they get excited. I think it's critical.
Yeah, I just want to go a little deeper on that, but relationship, or we use that very loosely, but relationship is really the ability to trust each other.
Right.
Like, listen, if I'm willing to go put some money in your bank and go through the extra effort to get my family to move their money, or I'm able to switch things over, this guy's actually putting effort in. And if maybe times get tough for that building, he's going to actually put effort in versus just go back. You go to some of these bigger banks, they all serve their purpose. Don't get me wrong, I do business with them too. But at Chase, like they outside the guy that might know you, you really don't know him. And that guy might even switch out here 3 months from now. So that ability, you're building a level of trust with the bank that's basically translating to down the road that, hey, I need money, and everything I've done so far is going to show you that you can put some trust that I'm going to pay you back, and I'm not going to screw you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. And also with the larger banks like the Chases of the world, they have revenue streams coming from all different angles, right? So if they want to, they can stop the faucet, or slow the faucet of lending, right? So because they have money coming over from investments or wealth management, whereas we rely on our deposits and our lending in order to give a return to the bank's investors. So, it's critical that we lend money. It'll never be a situation where, we stopped lending. I think that's critical to know.
When we talk about lending, like, let's say things get tough or rates get high like they are today, right? There's less deals being done. What happens then? Are you guys just, on the hunt more? Are you loosening your standards a little bit? Like, how do you, because I understand the concept. You got to create X amount of loans to keep this thing afloat. So what happens when we're in an environment like today and you need to keep the machine turning?
That's an excellent question, Tom. We have meetings every Monday, and we discussed that. I mean, had a meeting this morning, and the vice president was like, man, our pipeline is drying up. Go get some more deals, right? So, yeah, what we do is we start promotion, right? So right now we have a loan modification promotion, for customers that are already with the bank, and we'll modify that loan for free, right? No cost. You come up with different promotion. Get a loan, and your fees are zero, meaning that when you close, then we'll reimburse you or something like that. So just come up with different promotions and just get out here and just grind. I mean, it's all about networking and relationships.
You're an investor yourself, and I was listening to another video on YouTube that you were talking about a building back in the day. You had a lady complain about someone else who ultimately sold her the property. But so you've been doing this for a long time on the investing side. How has your outlook in investing over the years changed, and kind of how does that work in with your day-to-day, what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So it's funny because, when I started 25 years ago, I mean, I had a totally different mindset. I mean, when I started, I was buying houses, doing rentals. I had small multifamily. The property you're talking about was a 2-flat out in Chicago Heights. And the difference is that my mindset back then was more of tenants and toilets, right? And so, at a certain point I said, well, you know what? And I was extremely busy back then because I was brokering and things were way loose. So, my mind just kind of shifted towards, okay, well, I'm making all this money brokering, and I said, you know what? This one tenant I had, she was on the first floor, and she was a young lady, had like 3 or 4 kids, and I'm sorry, she was on the second floor, and I had a senior citizen on the first floor, and so all her kids, the lady on the second floor, would run around late at night, making a lot of noise, and so my tenant, the senior, would call me late at night to tell me, can you do something about her and her kids? And so it got to the point where I was like, well, you know what? Do you want to buy this property? So, so I ended up stumbling there. I don't know if she evicted the lady on the young lady on the first floor with kids, but I just had a different mindset. It's like, wow, So now I invest in multifamily, but it's a business. I have a business mindset. And so I don't look at it as tenants and toilets. I look at it as a business. I handle it as a business. I deal with my tenants as a business. That's the biggest difference.
I just want to pull something out there because I give this advice often to people of, especially if you're buying a 2 or 3 or 4 flat. If there's tenants in there, assume there's something's wrong with 1 or 2 of them, because that's usually one of the motivations for saying, you know what, screw it, let's just sell this one with this unit empty now or something like that. So keep those things in mind. People's, they might say, oh, yeah, great tenants, this and that, but a lot of times people have these intentions or these motivations that I got to put out of the market. So do your due diligence. And especially if Kevin's selling you a building with the noise issues. So. Where was that 2 flat at? Chicago Heights, you said?
Yeah, Chicago Heights. Yeah.
Nice. You're from Chicago. You're from the area, right? You grew up in Chicago?
Yeah, born and raised in Chicago on the South Side. And I went to high school on 111th and what's that? 111th and King Drive, which is now Gwendolyn Brooks. It used to be called Mental High School.
Yeah.
But now
that's cool. I love it. Like, it's so beautiful.
Exactly. But now I moved up north. I live in Rogers Park, and my bank where I work is in Lincolnwood, so it's only like 10 minutes away from where I live. So, a little bit more convenient.
Yep. So as we're talking about different neighborhoods, where are you seeing a lot of activity, right? Because you lend all over Chicago. Just anecdotally, where have you been originating, your most of your lending?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Tom. Man, it's crazy. I've been lending all over Chicago. I mean, I'm talking South Side, West Side, North Side, Northwest Side. However, I'm seeing a huge influx of investors, and I'm talking not just local investors. I'm talking out of state. Investors from California, New York. I even have one an investor in Utah. And looking in South Shore and Woodlawn is just absolutely insane. I closed a deal with Keller Williams. I think it was $5 million in South Shore. I closed a deal in Bronzeville at about I think it was an 8 unit. It was somewhere in the ballpark of like 180,000 a unit. It was just insane. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of influx. Is on the South Side and South Shore and Woodlawn. And I do a few up north in Rogers Park, but it's mostly everybody's looking on the South Side.
Got it. Let's talk about that for a little bit. So here, one of the struggles I had when I was doing a lot of stuff in the South Side, with residential lending, residential lenders from Fannie and Freddie, they cannot look at an area and be like, oh, we don't want to lend there, right? That's discrimination. They're not allowed to do that. Indirectly in the commercial world, you can kind of do that. You can kind of say, we don't want to play in Roseland. And you can hide it. It's not racial. You can say, hey, it's crime, it's this, that, or the other. And you have a lot of outs to only lend in certain areas. And obviously you can see the problem with that, right? The rich get richer in these areas where people are trying to do work. You don't have options, or you're paying more rates and you got to jack up the rents or whatever, right? So you guys are, you have a kind of a footprint down there. Talk to us about why, I guess why, and like, how do you make it work? Because a lot of, this is from my own experience, so I could be wrong here, but like, I feel a lot of people shy away from that. They take the easy, from personal, when I needed something in Pullman, there's 2 people I can turn to. When I need something in Lakeview, my phone's off the hook.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very intuitive question, Tom. So, the interesting thing about it, and I wanted to also bring this up, was as a community bank, we have to lend in these communities because we have federal mandated CRA requirements, Community Reinvestment Act. So we have to invest in a certain portion of our portfolio in a certain AMI, area of median income. So it has to be low to moderate income, and it has to be a part of our portfolio, right? So the way we make it work is because it's required to invest in those areas, the pricing is actually a little bit better. Okay. And so the deals actually pan out, especially the large communities. So that's the reason why we have to lend to certain communities.
Yep. And also another kind of a piggyback question there. So that all makes sense. When you have someone from out of state and they're going into South Shore and they're underwriting, 3% vacancy or 3% economic loss, like you as the lender, what role do you play? Because you need to get the deal done, but you also got to make sure that this is being underwritten. And at some point, you got to be somewhat of a guide for someone who's not familiar with, what they're walking into.
And your reps on the line too with your team.
So. Yeah.
Right. Right. And that's why it's so critical that an investor coming into this market, like you said, they come to us first, right? First thing I say is send me the railroad, send me the operating statement. If you had an OM, send it to me so I can evaluate the deal. So when I evaluate the deal, and first of all, Tom, it's 3% vacancy. That's a joke. I mean, I'm talking a minimum of 6% vacancy, right? And then we have an appraisal department where I have to email them and I say, okay, I'm looking at this property to analyze. Then I say, what's the vacancy and what's the cap rate for that market? They send it back to me. I plug it into my worksheet. And so somebody might be, if someone's underwriting at a 3 or 4% vacancy and, a lower cap rate, then what's happening is when I underwrite it, and it's going to come back different, right? And so then I say, okay, this is how we can make it work. I have to lower your loan amount, and you have to bring a little bit more capital to protect it. Yeah. Now a lot of people might not like that, but like you said, it's for their protection, Tom. They might be paying too much for a property. It might be totally unrealistic. I see deals like that regularly now because sellers have come down on their pricing. They're asking too much because, they're asking, too much based upon current market interest rate.
It's kind of crazy. It's a buyer beware world to point that out. We've had brokers on here that admittedly say, hey, listen, we underwrite just based on averages and you have to go running your own numbers. So anyone listening, keep those things in mind. You might have the bank as a backstop, but even then, just make sure that you're taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, the responsibility falls first and foremost to you, right? Pulling inputs from everyone else, but like that's not it can't be a cop out of, oh, I have the lender here, I have this guy guiding me. I listen to something Mark said even. Like it doesn't matter. Like you got buck stops with you as the individual.
Yep. Absolutely.
Or know your risk tolerance. You gotta listen.
That's the other thing. Or just be able to roll with it.
Well, so talk to us about that then. About DSCR. Explain kind of because community banks really ride the DSCR model. Like, tell us what DSCR is. Kind of give us an example and break that down for everybody.
Yeah. So the way it works is the first thing we do is we underwrite the property, right? So we make sure that the property is able to service the debt. So the DSCR is debt service coverage ratio. So to compare that to residential lending, is basically your debt ratio, right? So you have the property debt ratio, and then you have an individual global debt ratio. So the first thing is when we look at the property, depending on the size of the loan, we like to see a debt ratio of either 1.20, 1.20 or 1.40 for larger property. So you're buying $1 million property, we like to see a 1.40 debt service coverage. And basically what that means is that the property is servicing the debt, and so that's 1-to-1. And then once you go above that 1.20, that means that's additional net profit of that, whatever, 0.20, 0.30, or 0.40. So that's cash flow. And I think that's critical for people to understand that, because people get excited when they see these properties and, they look all nice and shiny and they're like, okay, hey, I'm going to buy me a multifamily. But when you dig into the numbers, you really got to be conservative on your underwriting.
Yeah. So just to really dummy this down for if that went over anyone's head, if you have a property that's producing $5,000 a month, right, of income gross, and the expenses are $5,000 a month.
Right.
Your DSCR is 1, right? 5,000 divided by 5,000 is 1.0. You have nothing left over, in what Kevin's saying here is you need that, that extra 20%, that extra 40%, whatever it is, above and beyond your expenses, as you should, right? You want cash flow from the property. You need cash flow to survive. So when we're saying DSCR, that's what we're talking about. Now to dive a step deeper, when you're calculating DSCR, because I think a lot of people conceptually understand, you have all your hard expenses in there, right? You have taxes, insurance. How do you use a bank in I don't know how far you can go here, but do you put in like a cost per unit for maintenance? Do you put in, a set vacancy number? Like, what are some of those like more squishy where if the three of us underwrote a property, we might all come up with different expenses?
Yes, and that will happen. So basically, the way it works is I literally have a worksheet that I plug all the numbers in, but we start at 6% vacancy and 6% cap rate. Now, like I said, I have to send it to my appraisal department, and they tell me what the cap rate is for that area. So when that comes back, if let's say it's 8%, let's say it's 7% vacancy and 8% cap. So I plug that in the worksheet. In terms of the expenses, I take the numbers that are given to me. However, we have another section within the worksheet that has certain minimum, right? So if you tell me that, for example, your insurance is $1,000 a year, that's going to be bumped up. That might be bumped up to $3,000, $4,000 a year, right? Because that's just too low. In terms of, sometimes I get a lot of numbers, and they don't have like a management fee in there. And Mark, I'm sure you can speak to that in terms of minimum management fee. So we might throw, a 5 or 6% in there. So a lot of people don't put reserves in there. We have to throw, 3, maybe 6 months of reserves in there. So we do bump it up. It has to be stressed. So if we stress it, we're gonna throw a higher rate in there. There's a lot of different moving parts.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful information for those of you looking to buy a building, like just kind of get into the bank's head, this is how they're going to underwrite, right? And where you need to be super cautious is you're buying a building where the rents are currently below market, and you have this grand plan, we're going to do the updates, and we're going to be able to, get these to market and blah, blah, blah. But day one, the bank wants to make sure you're alive, right? So you need to understand, like, you might not get 75% LTV. You might be sitting at 60 or 50 or, some low number because you have to meet that minimum debt requirement.
Yeah, that's a good point also, Tom, because I get a lot of people say, oh, well, the rents are low and I can raise the rents by $200 each. And this is my pro forma. We don't underwrite on the pro forma. We underwrite based on current rent roll, current expenses, right? So I think that's a big thing that people, investors need to know, is that unless you're doing some sort of purchase rehab loan, some sort of whatever hard money or something like that, we don't base it on the performance. We base it on historical.
Yeah, and let's be real too. If you have to if you're going to buy a 3 or 4 or 6 flat and you're trying to increase rents, or an 18 flat and you're trying to increase rents, and you have to force a turnover, getting people that are paying low rents is tougher to get out these days than ever. But between the fair notice ordinance that Chicago has, the new laws in Cook County, you got to give up. I mean, someone's been there for 3 years, right away you're at 4 months, and that's if you can get them to leave at 4 months, because that $800 rent they're paying, they can't go find it anywhere. So they have
they might be cooperating, they can't find it. It does not exist, and that's what their budget can afford.
So a lot of times I tell people, like, this journey to raise rents and turn over units and this add value of just increasing rents could take you 2 years sometimes to get to that point. And that might be conservative in Cook County.
And also just the effort that goes into it. You don't just plug numbers into a spreadsheet. Like it's actual work. Yeah. Right. So you can't buy the property based on that amount. Right. You can see the potential, but you can't make the purchase solely on, well, I know it'll be, once I do this. Like, it doesn't work that way.
And that's all you said, the work. Like, the emotions, you're kicking someone out that can't afford it. I mean, there's different scenarios, but like those sad ones always seem to come into play. That it's like, man, then you let them stay. You're like, I'll deal with it next year, and then they're there for another year, and you still don't have your $400 more a month that you told Kevin you're going to get.
That's exactly right. Right. Like you're not gonna, someone's been there 10 years. What are you gonna do? Right. Like you got to go look your kids in the eye at night.
Then you have your contractor come out and give you the valuation of that unit has been rented or hasn't been updated since the 60s, and now you're like, oh shit, I just put all this other money in this other unit, so I don't even have 40 grand to put in this unit. So, yeah. Trust me, I see it all the time. These add values through rent increases take years to really get all the way through the process.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, the thing I like about multifamily is this. I have a 12 unit, and I had a tenant die on Christmas Eve, right? And so, the police came and all that, and they, removed the body and all that. But the issue is that I have to renovate that unit now, right? However, I'm not worried about it because out of my 12, 6 of the tenants paid a mortgage, and I have money left over. So that's what I like about multifamily is that you have multiple streams of income versus if you have a house, it's sort of like you have 12 houses stacked up, and the cash flow is what, you are relying on to cover your expenses. But, I didn't panic anything like that because I was able to still receive rents from 11 other tenants. So that's what I like
see,
about
it's kind of like having 4 kids, right? One of them will take care of me.
Yeah.
It's even one or two, like, because one of them will do well enough and stay local.
Right. Here's another housing provider tip: you got to make sure you have the right vendor on place to come and clean up that crime scene or that scene if there is actually an issue there. And then 2, here I'll tell you a quick horror story that I had I had to leave the unit empty for like a year because somebody, I don't know, I still don't know 100% of it, and they never came down to it. So there was some sort of foul play in one of my units. I had a 2-flat, and the frustrated family put signs up all over the entire neighborhood that at this address on this block in this unit, my mother. And don't get, I'm laughing now, but like they literally put signs up within a 3-block radius. So I mean, no one would come look at the unit. Like I didn't even try putting it on the market for 6 months. I'm like, I'm not even gonna try. Like I'm not even gonna be with that. But I eventually called them and say, hey, listen, like, I gotta put my place back on the market. Like I've cleaned it up. It's ready to go. But like that was my kind of horror story from that scenario.
Yeah, these passive investments can take some work sometimes.
Yeah.
So, well, Kevin, what do you see the next 12 months of lending? Like the last 12 months that we go back have been crazy, right? Like we've never seen anything like this where, with the rate jumps and so forth. How do you see the next 12 months playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, Feds meet again, I believe May 4th or 5th, and more than likely, they don't bump the rates, higher, right? So I think it's still a good opportunity and good time to buy, especially multifamily. It's just that you just have to be more conservative. I don't foresee rates decreasing over the next, let's say this year, 2023. But it's still a good opportunity to buy because, you still have to just underwrite it more conservatively, and the sellers that have to sell are going to work with you, right? And then on top of that, you're going to have some sort of, some percentage of delinquency that's going to be coming up over the next, 12 to 18 months. And so you have to be prepared to take advantage of that. So I think it's a good opportunity to buy. Just have to be way, way more conservative. The reason why, part of the reason why the bank down south fell was, they had like a bridge loan, some sort of hard money loan, and they based it on pro forma rents that, they're going to increase rents like we talked about earlier, and then then they didn't have a cap rate on the interest rate, so their interest rate doubled, right? And so if they weren't able to make payments, so I think that depending on what your business strategy is, you're going to have to really be conservative. If you're going to do, a capital markets, some sort of rehab component, if it's only component, you really need to make sure that you have a cap rate on there, so that when rates do change, yours doesn't skyrocket. you can prepare more in advance. I think, you just need to be really conservative in your underwriting, check in with your lender, see what rates are, because rates are constantly changing. Underwriting guidelines are changing, but you need to be abreast of current information.
Love it. That almost sound planned. That just came out very smooth.
I feel like you've been asked that question a lot.
Yeah, you've even asked that question before. Hey, one more question before we wrap up here. As a commercial banker, you guys, in essence, are outbound salespeople. And you guys are always looking for on the hunt and networking. Like, talk to me about some solid networking that you recommend to listeners. I know you did an event recently with Anthony Hardy. Like, tell us the listeners where they should go or what groups they should get involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Mark. I mean, especially, I think you need to get involved with your local meetups. I mean, we have so many meetups. I mean, you probably can go to a meetup every day of the week in Chicago. So get involved with the local meetups. Get involved with the different, Facebook groups. Such as Mark, your Facebook group is really, really powerful. And then also, there are a couple of summits coming up. So, just to put a plug in for John Cashman and Bree Smith's, the Midwest Real Estate Summit, Networking Summit is coming up May 6th and May 7th. And I'm sponsoring that. Our, Bank Financial sponsor, one of the sponsors, that I think that's a huge opportunity to not only learn, get some resources, but the networking is huge. I mean, they haven't had it for a couple of years because of COVID, but, when I went before that, it was great. Last year, GOB Network had an event, huge, a lot of great network.
Well, by the time this airs, we'll be past the summit, but at least give everyone the feeling that either they're grateful they went or they're pissed they missed it. So either way, you're helping guys prepare for 2024 summit.
Yeah.
There you go. So, cool. Mark, you ready to wrap?
Ready to wrap. All right, Kevin, you listen to the show, so you should nail these questions to be prepared. Ready?
Yeah.
What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do all you've done over a couple decades while others wish they could?
You know what? I just try to show, be compassionate towards what people are trying to go through. I like to understand, what their plan is. I like helping people going from A to Z in their business plan and in their goal.
Well, put your investor hat on now. What is the one piece of advice you would tell someone that has yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
Oh man, it's like I say all the time: education, education, education. So I would grab as much information as possible, whether it's from YouTube, the meetups, networking events. So I would get educated first. What you want to do.
Awesome. So Kevin, what do you do for fun?
Man, that's a good question. I'm so busy. I work out 5 days a week, so I really kind of enjoy that. I like traveling with my wife. My kids are older now, so we can do more. We do a lot of local getaways. Like for her spring break, we went up to New Buffalo and spent the week. So, that's pretty much what I do.
Stuff. All right, so you can give us either a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to the listeners.
Well, right now I'm reading Cool Not How. Just I've got the name of the author, but
Mark will tell you, don't worry.
Don't worry, Benjamin Hardy, I got it.
Yeah, that book is, man, it's totally made a difference in my mindset in terms of, trying to figure out things on your own, but try to find that cool, that is more of an expert in that certain category. So I think that's a huge book that I like right now is Who Not How. And then obviously, you guys podcast Straight Up Chicago is a huge resource.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Benjamin Hardy actually has another book coming out May 10th. I actually got a hard copy. I couldn't listen to audio. I have to read it hard. It's not audio, but it's called 10X is better than 2X, or it's easier than 2X. So,
right.
Kevin, if you ever read Gap or Gain, that's another book that's came out with him since Who Not How, and that's another awesome book about really mindset of focusing on where you're at, not where trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, I like that one better actually.
I do. That for sure. So
Got it. It's on my list.
all right. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network that you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource. This one's gotta be tough, man. You're a networker. You got a lot of people, man, in your pocket.
Yeah, deep.
Yeah, no, it's
Man,
man.
give us a list. We'll upload it to the show notes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. You know what? I would say finding a good property inspector. You know, I'm not going to name names, but I think a lot of people miss the boat with that.
You gotta name a name. Name one. No, for real. Name two if you're because that's the whole point. We want people that could use qualified. We haven't had a home inspector on the show yet, so just give us a name.
This guy name is Mark Wilczak, Wilczak. He's a building inspector. He was very efficient, and I recommend him. Property inspector is huge.
Awesome.
We haven't had that. We haven't had that recommendation yet. That's a good one.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes. You can send us over as direct information.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Kevin, thank you so much. You provided a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, but yeah, just reach out to me. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, but always available. You can call, text me, email me, and I'm Greer at bankfinancial.com. And like I said, LinkedIn is a good place to reach out to me also, on Facebook, those two.
Cool. Good stuff. Mark, Chicago Fact Time. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So today we're at Chicago Fact brought to you by NEGC, awesome general contractor in Chicago. We're playing, I pulled the name Marco Marion. So this one stands out because last summer he actually posted a picture online wearing the Straight Up Chicago t-shirt. And it was his brother or something like that, like giving a thumbs down that he didn't have one. So we actually sent you don't even know if you know the story, Tom, but we actually sent him out then a shirt. So then they posted another picture of both of them wearing it. So Marco, we're playing. If we get, if myself or Kevin get the Chicago Fact right, then you'll get a $50 gift card brought to you by NEGC.
All right. So I don't know if our guests know this, but today's guest is also an alumnus from the University of Illinois. So they've produced a ton of great alumni. They've produced a ton of co-founders, such as the co-founder of the Straight Up Chicago Investor podcast. But here's the list, Mark. They have produced co-founders for the following companies except, and your options are, so an alumni from University of Illinois has been a co-founder of all these companies except for one. You got to name it. YouTube, Oracle, Tesla, Spotify. Which one does not have a University of Illinois co-founder?
Really? No matter what the answer is, it's still impressive. The other three.
Yeah,
Dude, there's Granger, Yelp, Netscape. There's a lot more.
I mean,
Now serving properties.
Tesla.
Kevin's going Tesla. Mark, what are you going with?
I'm going to go with Oracle.
Ooh, Spotify.
Wow.
Man.
We gotta, yeah, dude, go to the Wikipedia page. It's impressive. It's obviously accurate. It's Wikipedia.
All right. Oh, man. Well, hey, listen, Marco, we went through a lot last summer. We had fun, and you guys promoted us all over the internet. So NEGC said, they told me,
It's Matt Nostel's money, so just send it.
Yeah. Matt said it's awesome. We could send it to you. So we'll send you.
You gotta use them on your next turnover.
Yeah.
Brought to you by NEGC. So that's awesome. All right.
Awesome.
All right, Kevin, thanks for coming on. Tom, thanks as always. Listeners, we talked about networking here. Kevin said that you could go to a meetup pretty much every night of the week, and we have, I think, just about 30 of them on our straightupchicagoinvestor.com page on our meetup. So go on there, check it out. If there's a meetup that you know about that's not on there, please let us know. We want to add it. Our goal is to get all of our listeners out, networking, meeting people, meeting the next person, and going from there. So it's how your network is what makes you successful. So Kevin, thank you for coming on. Awesome. First community bank. So we haven't had a first in a while here. So that's awesome. And then Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks all.
Thank you.